What if you suddenly found yourself as a lesser antagonist in your beloved dark fantasy tale? That's precisely the fate that befell Han, someone devoid of magic, lacking social aptitude, and staring at an inevitable disaster. His only chance at making it through is mastering an ability nobody seems to value. All he desires is to survive his time at the academy unscathed, but can he truly alter his destiny, or is catastrophe lurking just ahead? Let's dive in. Reincarnation is always a gamble. You might end up as an insect crawling in the dirt, but getting another shot at life as a human is like hitting the ultimate prize. That's exactly what happened to our protagonist. After exhausting himself to death in his previous existence, he gets a rare do-over as a human once again. However, he wakes up in the body of Hansa, a minor adversary who meets his demise in the very first chapter of a dark novel he once adored. Seeing the hopeless stats of his new identity, he feels trapped in this ill-fated role, cursing his rotten luck. To make matters worse, he finds himself in an auxiliary institute designed for dark sorcerers, making his fresh start even grimmer. He recalls that Hansa had the potential for greatness due to his innate magical capacity, but was unceremoniously dismissed from Ardell Academy because he lacked any practical ability. Now, he is surrounded by enigmatic individuals who mention his affiliation with Ardell Academy, speculating if he might be of use. He remembers that this was the unfortunate turning point when Hansa got involved with dark sorcerers. Just as he suspected, one of the magicians acknowledges some potential in him and tells him to come along. As they walk, the magician inquires whether he understands the initiation process, to which he reluctantly affirms. Deep inside, he panics. Joining requires taking a life and swearing allegiance to dark magic, a decision that leaves no room for retreat. He is well aware that the dark mage faction, including Hansea, will ultimately be obliterated by the novel's protagonist. As he scrambles to devise an exit strategy, a sudden system notification flashes, urging him to flee immediately. Stunned by this unexpected warning, he freezes in place. Just then, a blood-curdling scream reverberates through the compound. The magicians around him react quickly, attempting to assess the disturbance in the basement, while sternly warning him to remain still if he values his life. The moment they leave, he seizes the opportunity and bolts. Aimlessly sprinting through the facility, exhaustion soon overtakes him. He halts, groaning about being utterly lost. Up ahead, he spots a locked door, and a faint light approaches. As he pauses, a commanding voice from a dark mage catches him off guard. He crouches low and overhears two figures discussing a boy who managed to escape from the third basement floor. Once they move on, he scans his surroundings and attempts to force the door open. No matter how hard he tries, it won't budge. Frustrated, he recalls Hansa's latent magical skills. Determined, he focuses intently, trying to channel energy into his fingertips in hopes of unlocking the door. Yet, his efforts yield nothing, leaving him drained and disheartened. Just as he believes the situation couldn't deteriorate further, he senses an approaching presence. He braces himself for the worst, but is instead met with the sight of a small dragon. The creature tugs at his cloak, desperately begging to be held. Despite his reluctance, he eventually scoops it into his arms, telling the creature outright that he isn't suited for caretaking. The little one wails pitifully, making it impossible for him to ignore, so he begrudgingly brings it along. As he flees, he mutters about how the dragon must have done this deliberately, knowing full well he isn't cut out for the responsibility. He soon halts and considers testing the dragon's abilities. As he focuses on it, his system suddenly activates, unlocking a noose of taming. The system asks if he wishes to bond with the dragon and displays its abilities. To his astonishment, the creature possesses a flamethrower technique. Seeing this, he recalls traits from his previous existence, but grows frustrated at the lack of an acceptance button. It dawns on him that he must tame the dragon manually, just as Hansa did in the original story. As he familiarizes himself with the process, he realizes he has a surprising knack for it. Using calculated gestures, he fosters trust, assuring the dragon to rely on him. Though unsure if he's doing it right, he watches as the dragon gradually warms up, floating in midair. As it lands, doubt creeps in. Does he truly have control over the creature? There's only one way to find out. He commands the dragon to destroy the door's lock. Without hesitation, the dragon lunges forward, sinking its teeth into the chain and snapping it effortlessly. He is left in shock. Breaking through was that simple. With the path now open, their escape is imminent. Suddenly, approaching footsteps send a wave of dread through him. Looking over his shoulder, he spots pursuers closing in. Just as he is about to make his getaway, he recalls a basic smog spell from Ardell Academy, typically used for concealment. However, he has never attempted it before. With no alternatives left, he takes a deep breath. Concentrating deeply, he envisions holding a firearm. Channeling energy into his fingers while praying, the spell will engulf the cave in smoke. Miraculously, it works, and a faint light appears at his fingertips. The sorcerers pause as he swiftly casts the spell, creating a thick fog around them. He sprints toward the exit, but just as he reaches the handle, a ghostly hand appears and wraps around his throat. Stunned, he gasps for air as it tightens, sending him crashing to the floor. His tiny companion rushes to his side while he wonders if this is truly the end. The sorcerer smirks and tells Han that running is useless, and that he should be thankful for a painless end. Lying there, feeling helpless, he thinks about how unfair it is to be brought back only to meet death again. Just as he is about to give up, he recalls one last move. His little pet clutches his cloak, Sensing his distress, he looks at the dragon and tells it that they need to trust each other. If they want to break free, he apologizes for his past actions and pleads for its help. The small creature stretches its wings, steps forward with confidence, and releases a powerful blaze of fire. The flames engulf the enemy, and he howls in pain. The eerie hand clutching Han's throat disappears, finally setting him free. Once the danger is gone, the dragon returns to him. He never expected this outcome, but is thankful to have such a dependable friend. He looks at the dragon and promises to take care of it, knowing he owes it his life. But first, they must find a way out. They travel across a scorching wasteland, looking for shelter to rest. Relieved to be away from the dark sorcerers, our boy feels the burning heat and dehydration wearing him down. Even his dragon appears exhausted, swearing never to let those sorcerers capture him again. He spots a wagon in the distance and walks up to the elderly driver, requesting a ride. The driver asks for payment. Without hesitation, our boy pulls out a gold card and asks if it's enough. The old man, surprised, recognizes it as an Ardell Academy card, granting privileges. After a moment, he nods and lets them board. They thank him and settle in. As they relax, the driver asks their destination. Our boy hesitates, realizing he fled without direction. With dark sorcerers likely on his trail, his safest bet is Ardell Academy, a place where some may still want him gone, but also the best place to blend in. Just like in the story he once read, our adventure shifts to Ardell Academy, where we meet Selin, a second-year assistant instructor. She admires the polished stone floors, the bright chandeliers, and the refined uniforms of the students. However, her smile fades when she sees our hero enter covered in dust and looking completely worn out. Selin is in disbelief that someone so untidy just stepped into the spotless school. She sighs in annoyance, wondering how he even got past the entrance. While he remains unaware of her irritation, Selin worries that this boy, who has trouble handling his natural magic, might cause problems for the Academy's image right at the beginning of the term. Meanwhile, Han keeps his dragon hidden under his robe, but the little creature is getting restless and eager to come out. Our boy assumes that she must be a teacher, so he asks if he is late. She confirms that he is, but decides not to bother with him further. She recalls the whispers about Han Cie's odd fascination with forbidden magic and life-size puppets, concluding that he must be nothing but trouble. Instead of wasting time, she simply instructs him to hurry inside. He thanks her and leaves. She reflects on her changed perspective as a second-year professor. Inside the hall, students whisper, gossiping about his odd appearance. Arriving in a fancy carriage, yet looking poor, they assume something's off. Ignoring the chatter, he realizes he's likely destined to be the strange antagonist everyone talks about. Sitting at the back, he overhears classmates speculating about special treatment by Professor. He starts to wonder if his family bribed someone, if a professor actually noticed potential in him, or if a magic institution put in a good word for him. None of that matters. His goal is simple: staying alive in this dangerous world, using his powers. He sets two clear objectives. First, he must find a quiet, hidden spot. As a minor villain known for being reckless and unskilled, he risks meeting a gruesome end, possibly even being buried alive by the protagonist. With the academy gates locked for the year, he has time to come up with a solid plan. He doesn't know the exact reason behind his future demise, but he suspects it involves unfinished business or secret crimes. He'd rather act than wait for his tragic fate. His backup plan is finishing school and securing his future. His wealthy family cut ties with him long ago due to his past actions, so graduating from the academy is his best shot at stability. He decides to stay out of trouble, avoiding the main character and keeping a low profile. When the instructor finally enters, our boy recognizes him as Professor Grint from the Department of Magic. The teacher praises second-year students, noting how the best student sets high standards, making things tougher for him. With students aged 14 to 19, the school is highly competitive, and only 10% graduate with top honors. This makes our boy question how he can match the main character's insane dark magic abilities, since he just wants a peaceful life. It seems impossible. The teacher warns that those who don't meet expectations won't be allowed in his class. Han is startled when the teacher gives him a serious glance, as if under a spotlight. The teacher shares the exam timetable and taps his cane, making a magical announcement appear. Our guy is impressed by the spell and wonders if he could ever master it. The display reveals that after a year, he can select 3 subjects for written and practical tests. He is fascinated by the school's magic and enjoys having a choice, but suspects it won't be as easy as it sounds. The teacher clarifies that only a few students can pick their subjects, and it will be on a first-come, first-served basis. He even suggests drawing lots to pick the order. Our boy thinks it is unfair to leave his exam future up to luck, with no option but to act fast to protect his grades. He feels like his luck ran out after facing those dark wizards. The teacher takes out a ball and announces that Han will pick first. Our hero is surprised. Thinking maybe his luck isn't completely gone, he begins checking out the subjects and quickly realizes he should avoid anything too hands-on or related to dark magic. As he goes through the list, everything looks difficult, and he struggles to decide, but then he notices one. That stands out: exploration of arithmetic and magic formulas. At first, it seems really complicated, but he figures it's probably the easiest option available. Plus, he knows he's good at memorizing, so he assumes he can manage it somehow. His friends discuss his subject choice and agree that numbers is the simplest option. They are glad he chose it, since they are having a hard time. While they chat, he quickly picks his other two subjects. One seems doable. He is studying quietly in the library. Thinking back to his time as an animal care intern, the subjects he picked remind him a lot of his vet science major. He begins with exploration of numbers and spell patterns and realizes that math here is completely different, as his old methods might not work anymore. After finishing that, he grabs another book to continue studying. He is so deep in his work that he completely forgets his pet inside his bag. Other students begin to get curious when his dragon tries to squirm out. He quickly pushes it back down to avoid being noticed. His little friend wants to come out and play, but he keeps it hidden to prevent any trouble. Bringing it along might be useful, but it would only cause more problems with the people around him. He decides to leave the library. Our boy understands that using magic and training a baby dragon would attract too much attention. After leaving the library, he heads to the underground practice zone at the school. He tells his dragon it can run around freely, thinking it's a great time to test his taming skills, since he has learned the basics. When he asks the staff at the training ground for a pass to the beginner section, she looks shocked at his dragon and comments on him bringing a dragon to the basic zone. When she asks for its name, he realizes he has not named his pet, yet he asks the dragon for its name, and it happily responds Chime. He keeps thinking about a name, but the dragon gets frustrated because he doesn't understand as he considers different ideas. He suggests names like Drake and Charizard, believing they sound super cool. The dragon gets upset and warns him it might breathe fire on him if he doesn't pick a better one. After noticing the reaction, he carefully chooses a special and suitable name, finally deciding on Basilisk. The young hero sees the dragon's ears perk up upon hearing the name Basilisk. The girl understands what's happening and informs him that the training area allows 2 people, but someone is already in the other section. She guides them to weapon storage, explaining that students can borrow weapons. The boy examines the selection and thinks the weapons seem basic, likely because they're free. However, he doesn't complain, knowing he must improve and be grateful. He selects a shield and a simple wand. The girl leads them to the beginner training section and unlocks the entrance. Stepping inside, he feels mixed emotions as the peaceful garden-like setting surprises him. While walking around, he spots a slime creature and thinks even the weakest monsters seem friendly here, though he does not share the same kindness. He asks Basil if he sees the slimes, and when the dragon confirms, the boy decides to destroy them. Basil is shocked by his master's harsh command, but understands he has no choice. He proceeds to take down the block slimes, while his master observes as Basil starts to enjoy the battle. His master realizes that the dragon's natural instincts are kicking in. He's thinking about how the once timid creature is now gone. Watching as Basil tears through the creatures, deciding to improve his abilities, he explores the area until he hears eerie noises before suddenly being attacked. He turns quickly and barely manages to block the attack in time. The block slime monsters have returned for revenge, and he realizes he is not strong enough to take them all on at once. However, with Basil's plan in mind, he is confident they can defeat them one by one. The boy asks Basil if he's ready and suggests trying their usual move. Basil leaps forward and releases a powerful blast of fire, burning the monsters instantly. Impressed by Basil's strength, the boy says they need to keep practicing to improve. After hours of training, they collapse onto the ground, completely worn out. The boy admits that controlling Basil and using spells have drained his energy. Noticing Basil watching him, he promises to get the dragon a tasty treat once they return to the dorm. Meanwhile, Basil snores softly nearby. The boy then notices something happening below and decides to check it out. He spots a student, the same one the girl mentioned earlier, training with her creature. Her beast is being playful while she grows frustrated as it refuses to follow her orders. As he watches, the girl struggles to control her hellhound and he thinks she is handling the situation all wrong. She keeps yelling for the beast to come back and sit, but it completely ignores her and runs off. She storms away to find her stubborn pet, muttering that it will regret misbehaving. While searching, she suddenly realizes her wild beast has calmed down and is now sitting quietly next to the hero. She is surprised by how effortlessly Han has tamed her creature. When the boy notices her, he asks if the wild animal belongs to her and mentions that he has been watching her difficulties. He suggests that her method of training isn't the best approach. She looks a bit lost and disheartened. The boy explains that showing too much frustration only makes the creature more restless. She is caught off guard, unable to believe Han is actually giving her advice. As she considers his words, she cannot forget that Ardal Academy is the most prestigious school in the Empire. Adele, an Earth Mage, has always been one of the top 3 students. Despite coming from an ordinary family and facing numerous obstacles, her abilities are outstanding. Yet she ended up drawing a subject she struggles with for her lottery exam's introduction to basic taming. She calls it bad luck, but deep down, she knows she isn't skilled at taming. That's why she has been practicing. What really surprises her is Han. Last year, he couldn't even tame a simple slime, and she personally saw him fail. People say he is deeply interested in dark magic, and she always thought he was strange and unpredictable. But now, he has somehow managed to calm her wild hellhound and even make it affectionate toward him. She cannot believe it and asks how he did it. Han simply states that the beast is now calm and belongs to her again. She picks up her pet and thanks him. The boy then asks why she chose a hellhound, since it is a difficult creature for a beginner tamer. She confidently replies that taking on a challenging beast like that is very important to her. Since this is her first attempt, she wants to prove herself. Understanding her point, our boy jokes that he expected her to pick something simpler. Maybe a pet that enjoys rolling in the mud, or something more relaxed. Annoyed by his teasing, she snaps back, reminding him of all the times he failed in the past while she was busy training her beast. As Adele listens to Han, she can't help but wonder how he speaks so casually to her. Even though she's just an ordinary girl and he's from a noble family, her eyes shift to the small dragon beside him. It's impressive that he has already managed to tame it, especially as a second-year student. Han really does seem different now. They walk over to where the block slimes are, and Adele double-checks to confirm that it's the right area. Han suggested she use this spot to train and bond with her beast. Once he gives her an approving nod, she gets to work, clearing away vines and grass to reveal the slimes. Han mentions that he almost wiped them out earlier, but they keep coming back. Adele assures him not to worry, promising to handle them herself. She asks for a moment to prepare before dealing with the slimes. The creatures attack as soon as they spot her, but with one powerful strike, she takes them all down, leaving a huge dent in the ground. Han is impressed but can't resist making fun of her, joking that her method looks like she's burying them alive. Adele, irritated, acts like she doesn't hear him. While she thinks the area is clear, one slime remains and suddenly lunges at her. Caught off guard, she's surprised when Han unexpectedly casts a spell at the slime. She's stunned because she distinctly remembers him not being able to use magic before. Han casually asks if she hadn't noticed the slime coming back at her. Still a bit shaken, she pretends that she was completely aware the entire time. As Han walks away, he comments that if she knows what's happening around her, that's a relief. But as he leaves, Adele comes to a realization she actually didn't sense the slime sneaking up behind her. On top of that, Han's spell and magic arrow are far more precise than she'd expect from someone supposedly new to magic. She's about to say something when suddenly, an unexpected disturbance triggers a dungeon-wide alarm, sending a loud warning throughout the area. Both of them immediately go on alert. Han quickly asks if she has any idea what might have set it off, but she's just as confused. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, a staff member reports to the honorary principal that there is an issue in the training dungeon. The principal asks what's happening inside and which students are there. The staff member informs him that Han and Adele are present. The principal sighs and comments that Han is always causing trouble. He hints that losing Han wouldn't be a big deal, but Adele is a different matter entirely. She has a promising future, and her safety is a priority. He notes that Han lacks real abilities and is likely to struggle in such a dangerous situation. If the dungeon's magic is malfunctioning, the creatures inside could grow much larger and far stronger than usual. He stresses that Han doesn't stand a chance and advises the staff to prepare for the worst. Back in the dungeon, Han and Adele are still holding their ground. They've taken down many slimes, but the monsters just keep coming. It feels like the battle will never end. Adele groans, complaining that the creatures are getting more unsettling, and that this whole place feels like a nightmare. Frustrated, she yells that the slimes won't stop appearing and swears she never wants to see another slime again. While she continues to panic, Han can't help but find it a little amusing as he observes her. Even though Adele appears completely drained from the endless waves of creatures, she's still managing to keep up quite well. He realizes that while her skills in taming might not be the greatest, her swordplay is just as strong as the experts. It makes him consider whether she might be the Earth Mage who's destined to become an incredible spellcaster. Still, it feels odd to see someone as powerful as her spending time in a starter training zone like this. Calling an Earth Mage a mage swordsman isn't unusual, but Han is actually impressed by her personality. She has a bit of an attitude, yet she doesn't treat him like he's beneath her at all. Lost in thought, Han doesn't notice Adele glaring at him for slacking off. While she's handling all the enemies on her own, she thinks he's acting weird and wants to know why he's just standing there nodding instead of helping out. Han can't believe they've been trapped there for more than 3 hours without hearing anything from outside. He wonders if anyone even realizes they're in danger, which might explain why no one has come to assist them. She responds that it's just how things are, since only about 30 minutes have passed in the outside world. Time inside the dungeon moves slower. Instead of complaining, she sees this situation as a great chance for extra practice. Trying to figure out why there hasn't been any rescue yet, Han points out that even if someone knows what's happening and plans to save them, they still have to endure for several more hours. They need to keep fighting off the slime creatures until help arrives, though it feels like a long shot. Hearing Han's words, Adele gets irritated and scolds him for being so pessimistic, as if they're just sitting around waiting for the end. Han smirks and responds with sarcasm, claiming he would never say something like that, clearly enjoying their little argument. He then asks her to buy him some time. She frowns in confusion and questions what he's planning, but Han simply tells her she'll understand soon enough. He reminds her to hold the slime creatures back, since he only needs a short moment to complete his task. She starts panicking, asking why she has to handle everything alone and what exactly he's up to. But Han ignores her concerns and jumps straight into his plan. Basil appears a little uneasy about Adele, but Han reassures him that he has everything handled. As he moves forward, he notices glowing vines illuminating the area. He comments that he's read about them in the novel and understands what to do. In the original book, the Era Dungeon highlights the different abilities between Han and Han Saya. The original Han had a tough time dealing with this section, especially handling these stubborn vines. But now, he's thrilled to find them and instructs Basil to gather more. Basil scans the surroundings before quickly flying off to collect them. While waiting, Han grumbles about how readers constantly criticize him for relying on this method, calling him weak and a villain. Holding a unique vine in his hand, he mutters that he doesn't deserve all that negativity. Meanwhile, Adele is still fighting the slime creatures, but feels her magic running low. She's growing nervous about why Han is taking so long and can't help but grumble in frustration. Just then, Han rushes back in, shouting that he's finished. Adele turns to look at him, seeming a little baffled when she notices the strange vines as if he has built some kind of barrier. She motions for him to get inside, suggesting they keep things quiet since the slime creatures are recovering fast. However, Han insists that she step inside immediately. He explains his idea, building a wall to block the creatures and using boosted fire magic to burn them away. He's convinced that this will prevent the slimes from regenerating and completely erase them. He uses a spell to create a huge green arrow with arrow magic. Then, he says the only thing left to do is set the arrows on fire. Turning to Basil, he tells him it's his turn. Basil's eyes shine with excitement as he ignites the arrows. Han then fires the blazing arrows beyond their barrier. The slime creatures spot the glowing arrows, and out of nowhere, they explode in a massive blast. Adele watches in amazement as Han reveals his plan, struggling to believe that this is really the Han she knows. The slimes are vanishing and not returning, so she asks him how he pulled it off. Han explains that when he buried the slimes and scattered their remains, their poison would explode when fire magic touched it. She then wonders if he has an idea to stop the fire rain from breaking through their barrier. Han nods and says that's a good question. But their barrier vines are unique because they can endure fire and won't burn. With everything around them covered in flames, all they have to do now is wait for help. Since things seem calmer, Han feels a bit more at ease. Adele can't help but think how strange it is that someone like him actually rescued her. Obols at Ardell Academy usually ignore commoners, so she starts to question if Han has a secret motive. Meanwhile, Han is also confused by the way she's looking at him. He assumes she thanked him for saving her. Adele might seem cranky, but she has a kind heart and manages to say she's somewhat thankful since he basically saved her. Han grins and says that's nice, then asks if she could do him a favor. Adele looks slightly nervous, trying to figure out what he might ask. She thinks she'll agree if it's something simple, but she's not interested if it's something strange. Before she can finish her thoughts, Han tells her to keep everything a secret from taming the beast to capturing the error slime and making the barrier. Adele realizes she guessed right, but something still feels off. She can't shake the feeling that Han is hiding something and thinks he seems a little suspicious as she watches him pick up some slime orbs. The whole dungeon cleanup part is pretty much ignored. The two teachers are clearly confused by the sudden problems, but decide to reward the students for handling the situation without anyone getting seriously hurt. Later, Han is called into the dean's office for a big reward. Sitting there, he looks relieved and says he understands why rewards matter, but they're just not really his thing. He's much more focused on becoming stronger and helping his little beast level up. With the dean away, Han and Basil spend time alone. Han checks on Basil and finds out he has turned into a red dragon. Basil's fire-breathing skill has improved, and he even gained resistance to poison after that dungeon mistake. Han is slightly confused about what the Dark Magician group is planning, but since Basil came from the basement, it's clear they're connected somehow. Han gives Basil some praise for being a gifted young dragon with impressive growth and magical abilities. He's determined to train him properly, even if it takes a lot of effort. Then, he presents Basil with a slime orb and describes it as a potent item. He teasingly asks if it looks delicious and jokingly proposes tasting it. Basil hesitates, appearing doubtful, as if he suspects it could be toxic. Even though the dragon is also wary, Han convinces him by insisting it's delicious and that having a few won't cause any harm. After some debate, Basil finally gives in and takes a bite. Sadly, he ends up throwing up from the awful taste, which Han admits he never actually tried himself. Han notices that Basil's magic energy and resistance to poison have actually increased after munching on the orb. The slime orb really boosts stats and even speeds up normal mana growth, which usually takes a long time. Basil realizes the change and becomes completely obsessed with the orbs. He keeps eating them, and his stats rise quickly. Han just relaxes, watching everything unfold, feeling pretty satisfied. Then, out of nowhere, Adele rushes in and says she has been looking everywhere for Basil and finally tracked him down in the dean's office. She asks if he's really okay with her taking all the credit for dealing with the error slime, since it would make her way more popular and earn her some great rewards. Han scratches his head, saying he doesn't mind, but asks her to lower her voice since it hurts his ears. He notes life matters more than material things and warns that clearing the dungeon may attract the Dark Group's attention, putting him in danger. Besides, he has no interest in becoming like the main character. Adele responds that if that's the case, he should just keep that thought to himself, because she's not after fame either. Han wonders why she's being so understanding and bluntly tells her he doesn't need sympathy from someone he barely knows. Asking her to drop the subject, Adele is furious and demands to know how he has never heard of her. He throws in a sarcastic comment, questioning why he should even care, and asks for her name. When she tells him it's Adelia, his jaw drops. He realizes she's the brilliant magician from an ordinary background who always ranks in the Academy's top 3. The same girl who buries him alive in the original story. Now she stands before him, asking if he knows her. He panics, thinking she's destined to take his life. He feels like he has won the worst possible lottery by running into her and can't stop overanalyzing, mumbling that this terrible situation is making him anxious. Adele notices his panic and asks if he ever looks at himself in the mirror. She pulls him over to one so he can take a look. She bursts into laughter, saying she can't believe someone like him would walk into the dean's office just to pick something up when he sees his reflection for the first time since being revived in Han's body. He is shocked by how filthy and unkempt he looks. It's hard for him to believe that he doesn't resemble the handsome person he imagined. After realizing that people aren't avoiding him out of fear, but because they can't stand how he looks, he decides to stay optimistic. He makes up his mind to start improving himself, beginning with fixing his appearance and cleaning up. The next day, he strides into class with confidence. His classmates start whispering, with some assuming he must be a new transfer student because he looks so different, while others recognize him as Han but can't believe the transformation. As they gossip, he jokes about being so attractive that people can't stop talking about him. One classmate even asks if he had a makeover and wants to know his secret. Han is surprised when Crick, the annoying red-haired commoner, starts acting like he's in charge. Since Han isn't the original one, he refuses to let himself get pushed around. Crick keeps teasing him and calling him a failure, but Han completely ignores it. Things take a turn when Crick starts accusing him of losing his mind just because he got a haircut. Han calmly tells him to shut up or face the consequences because he's tired of it. Crick argues that he has every right to speak, especially since Han's family abandoned him. Han fires back, telling Crick to stop pretending to be tough. Just then, Basil jumps out of Han's bag, giving off an intense aura and a chilling presence. The tension rises, and Han starts feeling uneasy as his classmates are stunned by Basil's fierce energy. Crick keeps mocking him, but Han confidently shoots back, saying it's unfortunate that Crick chose the wrong person to mess with. As Crick gets more furious, Han smirks, enjoying watching him lose his cool. He turns the situation around and says even a baby dragon can make an impact, because skill matters more than size. He warns Crick that if something happens to him, there's no turning back. Crick is utterly exasperated and snaps at Han, telling him to understand his rank. As Crick's irritation intensifies, Han dares him to wait for the test results to determine who is superior. Crick is utterly stunned by the bold challenge. After class, Han can't help but recall Crick's bold statement that he would bark like a dog if he lost. Now, all Han has to do is sit back and wait for that moment to happen. This takes him back to his past life when he was famous for cleaning up his own troubles. Because of this, people used to call him a troublemaker. In return, he always fought back against unfairness and never allowed anyone to walk over him. Feeling satisfied with himself, he is suddenly interrupted by his classmates. They ask if he is really serious about defeating Crick this time, joking that he would be lucky just to pass. They laugh and question how he even dares to challenge Crick in the test, acting like he is fooling himself. They can't wait to watch him fail and start barking like a dog. Han remains calm, thinking that it's always the same people like them just can't let others be, even when they're doing fine. He then turns his attention to a blonde-haired guy and asks for his name. The blonde hesitates, looking uneasy, and wonders why it even matters. But Han cuts him off, insisting that he explain. With no real option, the blonde finally says his name is Edwin. The moment Han hears this, something clicks. Edwin is the proud prince who takes advantage of his status to control those weaker than him. He is also the leader of the group that has been tormenting him. Without any delay, Han reaches into his bag and pulls out his tiny dragon. Edwin's jaw drops in shock at the sight of it. He never imagined the little creature would be turned against him. The small dragon leaps at him, catching Edwin and his gang completely off guard. In a panic, they quickly flee, leaving Edwin behind, shouting for help. The scene shifts to a hallway where Adele approaches Han. She brings up the latest gossip going around and warns him that it might not be wise to mess with someone from royalty. She specifically mentions a guy named Edwin, the same one he had just confronted. Han responds that he doesn't really care since they were the ones who started all of this, and he is simply making them taste their own medicine. She used to think he was just an arrogant noble, but now she wonders if he is more like an imperial prince who attacks anyone he dislikes. Yet, she finds him easier to tolerate and calls him a lost cause. Moving closer, she asks if all nobles are this clueless. She reminds him he set his dragon on bullies, placed a random wager with Crick, and now plans to defeat him in a test. She extends her hand and tells him he's fortunate she stepped in to assist, because who knows what might have happened otherwise. Han mentions that she is improving her sense of timing with his beast, while he is helping her sharpen her control over magic. She shrugs it off and suggests they jump into some training. She even wagers that if he can manage to defeat her, it might mean he actually has a shot at beating Crick. He boldly replies that he's absolutely going to win against Crick. They begin their match. As Adele launches the first attack with a spell, Han swiftly blocks it, using a quick shield. All that intense training leads to a massive explosion. Time flies, and the entrance exam day finally arrives. After finishing her test, Adele checks her results. The professor informs her that she completed the magic exam in just 5 minutes and 31 seconds. Earning an A, Adele can't help but grin and thanks the professor. Han observes her excitement and thinks to himself that while his past life gives him an edge, there's no denying Adele's natural skill. The way she controlled that beast was truly remarkable. She's without a doubt a genius, a main character in her own right. As he reflects on this, the professor calls Han forward for his turn. Han steps into the magic cube for the beast taming challenge and discovers that he must battle a virtual creature that matches the strength of his tamed one. The goal is simple: defeat the opponent. He picks Cube C and signals that he's ready. Suddenly, a massive serpent appears, filling the space with an ominous energy. It's an Adaptrion, a monster he first encountered in his 3rd year. Its enormous size and strength make it clear that a single hit could be lethal, just as the novel had described. Han reassures Basil, telling him to stay calm, and that he likely wants this battle as much as he does. Even though his dragon looks a little uneasy, Han reminds him how much stronger he has become after consuming all those slime orbs and simply tells him to enjoy the fight. Basil appears to gain some confidence. The match begins, and Han instructs Basil to get as close as possible to the serpent since its vision is weak. His plan is to act as a distraction, drawing the creature's focus while preparing his spell. Han warns Basil to stay alert since a full-force attack from the serpent could seriously hurt them both. As Han keeps it occupied with his magic, Basil sneaks into its blind spot and unleashes a powerful flamethrower, instantly taking the monster down. The serpent crashes to the ground, causing the entire cube room to tremble. The professor is speechless, unable to believe that Han's young dragon managed to defeat the mighty Adaptrion in a single strike. Han exits the cube room and finds a crowd buzzing with excitement over his victory. He realizes the slime orb's effects are working exceptionally well and casually asks the professor if he passed. He modestly says it took him a little while, but he got the job done. The instructor announces that Han finished the test in 12 minutes and 36 seconds. Earning an S grade, Han is completely stunned. As the exam concludes, Han and Adele walk out together. She points out that he scored an S grade and is fairly certain he'll be ranked first in their section. Han feels pleased, but also a bit uneasy, as he had hoped to place around 15th to stay under the radar. This unexpected ranking might disrupt his plans. Noticing his worried expression, Adele teases him for overthinking everything, joking that he might turn into a lunatic at this rate. Then, shifting gears, she asks how he did on the arithmetic test, reminding him that rankings are based on overall scores. He replies that the questions were easy, but admits he intentionally got one wrong. Adele agrees that she didn't do well either, and complains that the test was far too difficult for her. Remembering her struggles with math, Han playfully shows off. Adele changes the subject, mentioning that some problems weren't even covered in class. This makes Han pause, and he asks if it really mattered that he got one question wrong. Suddenly, he rushes off. Adele wonders what he's contemplating and warns him that not placing first might put her scholarship at risk. She casually asks if he managed to solve question 27, the one about the magic circle. He replies that he believes he did. Adele looks surprised, and Han asks if he made a mistake. She hesitates, saying she might be wrong, and asks if he's sure about his answer. It turns out, he got question 27 right, the one she and the others couldn't solve. Han is startled by the revelation. He never considered it that important. It feels odd to him because he thought it was the simplest question on the entire test. If it turns out he got it correct, he worries that his name might start spreading around everywhere. In Professor Deer's office, Professor Selen shares the test scores. mentioning only one student solved question 27. Debert is shocked, believing it was impossible, and asks who did it. Selin reveals it was Han, and notes all his other answers were purposely wrong, guessing Han solved that question just to prove a point. In reality, Han only stumbled upon the answer by luck. Professor Debert recalls Han as the top scorer in the taming exam and considers him someone who truly thinks ahead. But while Han would rather live a relaxed life, it seems like destiny has something else in store for him. The next morning, the rankings are displayed, and a crowd gathers around the board. Han first looks for Crick's rank. As always, he's sitting at 32nd place. Just then, whispers spread. Han is completely caught off guard when he sees that he has ranked 11th. Crick looks absolutely shaken by the unexpected outcome and seems ready to run. Han calls out to him, telling him to stay close as they walk away. The other students keep whispering some are excited for Han, saying he climbed to 11th place, while others laugh at Crick, claiming he's about to crash and burn. They mock him for being so full of himself. Crick feels completely humiliated and can't even meet Han's gaze. Han asks him what 1 + 10 equals. Flustered, Crick stammers and blurts out 2, completely thrown off. Han sighs, laughing as he points out that the answer is 11 just like his rank. Crick's face turns bright red as Han continues to tease him, calling him 32nd place boy. Crick clenches his fists, irritated, while Han smirks, believing Crick still falls for his taunts. With a playful flick to Crick's forehead, Han decides to let him off the hook this time. Shocked, Crick yells, demanding to know why he was hit since that wasn't part of any deal. Han just shrugs, saying it's a small payback for all the trouble Crick has caused by bullying others. Crick looks like he wants to argue, but Han cuts him off, telling him to meet him later in the empty club room in the basement, where they can talk in private. When Crick asks why, Han simply says he has a task for him and tells him to think it over. He adds that he would rather not embarrass Crick in front of everyone, but Crick should carefully consider his options. Furious, Crick demands answers. But Han calmly asks if he knows his father. Crick believes he knows Hantai. I know what you're thinking, it's just a name. The Blood Count who founded the Ardell Empire and defeated dark magicians in the Dark Magic War. He assumes Han is using his family name to intimidate him, but Han isn't threatening, he's just curious. Then, Han tells Crick to start spreading rumors. Confused, Crick asks what he means. Han leans in and whispers something that completely stuns Crick. His jaw drops, unable to believe that Han is serious. Han confirms it, telling him to spread the word quickly. As Crick walks away, he calls Han a total lunatic. Meanwhile, in Hentai's office, Hantai, Butler mentions Han to his father. He dismisses him, too busy with his work to care. The butler explains that Han is struggling financially and barely getting by, since Hantai stopped supporting him aside from tuition and housing. Hantai waves it off, saying that hardship will help Han regain his memories. However, as Han distracts the opponent with his magic, Basil sneaks into a blind spot and takes down the monster with a fiery blast. The butler, looking uneasy, tells Hantai that his son might not be the same person anymore. Then, he delivers shocking news. Han placed 11th in the promotion exam. Hantai is completely taken aback. The butler continues, saying that people have started calling the young master noble-hearted, fair, and good-looking. Hantai is baffled by this sudden change and starts questioning the butler. He wonders if his son is threatening someone to make these rumors spread. The butler insists that the rumors are actually true. Hantai stays doubtful, recalling when his son dabbled in dark magic and regretting his harsh attempts to restore lost memories. Still, this could be good news, since Han is the heir to the Kastika estate. Excited, he declares that if Han joins the magic department at the upcoming promotion ceremony, he will reinstate all the financial support he had withdrawn. The scene shifts to an card-like magic machine, where Han is completely stunned as he checks his exam results. He discovers that some of the money he thought was gone has actually been returned. He is shocked by the amount and realizes that he can easily get through the whole semester with it. Feeling grateful for his father's pride and thrilled that his little trick worked, he mentally pats himself on the back for being so clever. As he's still absorbing everything, Adele calls him. She asks what he's up to and reminds him that it's time to go to the auditorium for the promotion ceremony. They walk together, and as Han strides down the corridor, recollections of the original novel start resurfacing. At Ardell Academy, second-year students are placed into different fields based on their abilities. The magic department focuses on various magical techniques and offers a lot of practical training. The natural science department combines magic with research and experimentation, along with academic studies. The theology department explores the spiritual aspects of magic, including prophecy and fortune-telling. Lastly, the necromancy department specializes in dark magic and combat techniques. The dean, Ernest, announces that the promotion ceremony is about to begin. He instructs students to step onto the stage when their name is called and place their hands on the magic dice, which will determine their strongest skills and assign them to a department. In the original novel, Han joined the necromancy department, seeking dark magic for revenge against those who belittled him. However, that choice led to a disastrous defeat. Now, he wonders if the magic dice will guide him to the same fate. Though he has changed, he admits his decisions haven't been ideal. Even so, he hopes to avoid the same destiny as the Han from the story. The dean calls out Lee Han's name, the top student aiming for the magic department. As Lee Han steps onto the stage, his classmates cheer for him, praising how amazing he is. Han can't help but think that Lee Han is like the star of Seoul, Hakami, and finds it hard to ignore how flawless he looks, almost like he's using some kind of cheat code. Han wishes he could be the main character too, imagining himself as a good-looking guy. Lee Han places his hand on the glowing magic dice. The dean announces his assignment to the magic department. As he steps away, he glances at Han, clearly expecting him to join the same department. It's obvious Lee Han anticipated this outcome. The dean calls the next student Solya as she steps forward. Han instantly remembers her as the powerful light mage and a close friend of the main character. The dean announces her placement in the magic department, which doesn't surprise Han. One by one, students are assigned based on their rankings. The top scorer, Seymour Parker, joins the necromancy department, while Yoon is placed in the theology department. Han watches in awe, amazed to see these well-known names and characters before him. When they call his name, he starts thinking about what could happen 3 years from now. Maybe the necromancy department will try to rise up against the academy, but end up losing to the main group. As he places his hand on the magic dice, he seriously hopes he won't get assigned to necromancy. Meanwhile, his classmates are off to the side, whispering about him and the rumors linking him to dark magic. When the device glows, the dean looks completely stunned and announces that Han has been placed in the magic department. He feels an enormous sense of relief that he dodged necromancy, while the other students seem shocked. As he steps down from the stage, he gets annoyed by their curious and doubtful stares, particularly from those intrigued by dark magic. Adele gives him a thumbs up, saying that they'll probably run into each other in the magic department. He kind of expected she'd be there too. When he asks if she's happy about them being in the same department, she nods with a cute and cheerful smile, making him blush. Embarrassed, he quickly hides his face with his hand. Noticing his reaction, Adele asks if something's wrong. He insists everything's fine and suggests she should give him a warning next time she shows up. Adele looks a little puzzled by that, but before they can talk more, Lee walks up to them. He greets Han and casually says he'd like to be friends since they'll be in the same department. Han feels a little uneasy about Lee being so welcoming and starts wondering what his real intentions are. Lee seems a bit doubtful of him too, pointing out that it's strange he suddenly became interested in the magic department when he wasn't before. With a relaxed handshake, Lee mentions that he's looking forward to working together. With no other choice, Han shakes his hand. In a low voice, Lee mentions hearing about the dungeon incident before the practical exam. Han is completely stunned. Lee continues, noting that even with Adele there, an ordinary student wouldn't have survived the Era dungeon. Now, he's truly curious about the magic Han used to make it out alive. Han is stunned that Lee knows about it, especially since the professor tried to keep it under wraps. He quickly realizes that Lee is exceptionally perceptive, making it hard to read his thoughts. Beyond that, Lee exudes a commanding presence. He's the ideal protagonist type, someone who firmly believes that every villain must be defeated. Han begins to wonder if Lee already suspects him of being connected to a dark magic faction and is merely assessing whether he poses a threat. Then, the scene shifts. Han heads to his dorm, thinking about the buzz surrounding the academy's new housing, which apparently feels like a luxury hotel. When he finally locates his room and pushes the door open, he's completely stunned to see someone inside who looks just as surprised to see him. The younger boy gasps and excitedly asks if he's really Han Siha, while pointing right at him. Han looks a bit confused and asks why he's acting so shocked. The boy grins and says he's thrilled to have a roommate who's such a big deal. He mentions that Han is famous for making Crit cry and even causing royalty to tear up. Hearing that makes Han feel a bit uncomfortable, reminding him of the time Fabian Edwin tried to act tough after the promotion ceremony. Fabian had questioned why someone of his royal status was placed in necromancy, while Han ended up in the magic department. To throw him off, Han casually hinted that Fabian wasn't actually from a fully royal bloodline. Fabian was stunned and demanded to know how Han found out. Han rolled his eyes and told him to calm down, making it clear he had no intention of exposing him. Catching the hint, Fabian quickly backed off and apologized for causing a scene. Fabian, looking miserable, then started whining about how he didn't belong in the magic department. All while tearing up, Han told him to cut it out and called him an idiot, worried that other students might overhear, but it was already too late. The surrounding students started whispering, saying Han was way too harsh for making Fabian cry. Han was frustrated, realizing his plan to stay under the radar and graduate smoothly was now ruined. Back in the dorm, Han reflects on the mixed reactions he's been getting lately. The boy introduces himself as Woon and says he's also in the magic department. One greets him warmly and admits he knows Han is a well-known figure. even though he hadn't heard of him before. But Han knows exactly. Woon is one of Lee's most reliable allies, known for his sharp thinking and ability to gather information. He also has an incredible network of sources. Noticing that Han looks a little off, Woon asks if something's wrong. Han just sighs, thinking about how unlucky he is to keep running into all these major characters. He mutters something about schemes to take him down as Han, but quickly waves it off, saying it's nothing. Woon is doubtful but changes the subject. To lighten the mood, he suggests checking out the dorm after unpacking. He shows a guide map and insists it'll be fun to explore as roommates. Han hesitates but eventually agrees. While they're in the dorm cafeteria, Woon brings up some talk from the upperclassmen saying that eating outside is a much better choice. Han asks why, and one explains that the cafeteria food is awful, tasting like strange experiments gone wrong, so barely anyone eats there. He adds that students are so fed up with it that they've actually filed complaints. Han instantly decides he won't be eating there either. After complaining about the cafeteria, they head over to the magic training grounds, where practice is constantly happening. Woon warns him to be careful where he steps, or he might get hit and end up in the nurse's office. Han suggests a magic shield, and Woon agrees, complimenting him for being sharper than most assume, while also making a playful joke about it. Feeling slightly irritated but ignoring it, Han suggests they continue exploring the training area while Woon talks non-stop. Han realizes that, despite Woon's randomness, his words contain useful information. Woon even admits his comments aren't entirely meaningless. After wandering around for a while, Woon decides it's time to head back to their room. Just then, the sky suddenly darkens, and it looks like rain is about to fall. Han immediately realizes that this isn't normal. Rain, it's something poisonous and dangerous. He quickly grabs Woon and tells him they need to rush to the main building to warn their professor. Woon feels strange about Han's sudden reaction and seems confused about why he stopped so abruptly. Han watches as the eerie rain soaks the muddy ground, every drop carrying deadly poison. A wave of panic spreads among the students as they start shouting for everyone to stay indoors, since the rain is toxic. Things get even worse when some students notice that people are missing, including Adele and Solia. Seeing all the chaos, Han begins to suspect that the black magic group is responsible and that they plan to take gifted students hostage as part of their scheme to take over the academy. He realizes that this could be the beginning of the dorm kidnapping event. The system suddenly alerts him that the main objective of episode 4 is to track down and rescue the missing students. It also warns him that failing will cost him attractiveness points, but since he doesn't have any to lose, he just ignores it. Meanwhile, Adele and Solia are tied up inside a tree deep in the forest. Adele struggles to break free, but Solia tells her to calm down and conserve her strength. She explains that the vines holding them are incredibly tough, and she's been searching for a weak point but hasn't found one yet. Adele can't help but wonder why this mysterious figure in a black robe has locked them inside this tree. She feels like she hasn't done anything to deserve this situation and definitely doesn't think she's important enough to be a target. Unlike Solia, who has everything going for her, Adele is just an ordinary girl without any family to support her. It reminds her of when she was trapped with Han in the Era dungeon, and the thought of his face suddenly flashing in her mind frustrates her. Why is she even thinking about him right now, when he's probably just relaxing in his dorm? Solia glances outside the tree, wonders if the vines could be weak against light magic, since the sky is covered in black mist. Adele agrees, recalling that the last thing they saw before caught was the sky turning dark. Solia notes the heavy clouds seem unnatural, as if made to block sunlight. The giant tree trunk stretching into the sky also looks suspicious. She says such places usually allow sunlight unless there's a reason to keep it out. Adele gives her credit for figuring it out so quickly. Solia nods and says she's ready to fight back, explaining that the poisonous rain affecting everyone is clearly caused by dark magic. She adds that her purification ability is a form of light magic, which makes it the perfect counter. Adele knows Solia's skill is strong, but isn't sure it's enough. Taking a deep breath, Solia begins chanting as a bright glow surrounds her. Adele watches, wondering if this much light magic might actually work. Suddenly, a voice interrupts, warning them to stop messing around. Adele jumps as the tree itself springs to life and attacks, shattering Solia's spell. Solia stumbles back, looking drained and in pain. The tree laughs at her, saying that no matter her potential, she's still just a second-year weak student against them. A dark fog spreads, making it hard for Solia to breathe. Worse, it clouds her mind, making her thoughts hazy. The tree presents an offer that's tough to ignore, hinting that it can restore everything Solia has lost. It continues to talk about all the struggles she has faced since joining the academy and how close she is to reaching her breaking point. The tree assures Solia that its power can help her push through and finally return home, making the deal sound far too tempting. With the thick mist clouding her mind, Solia finds it difficult to focus. Adele quickly steps in, urging Solia to snap out of it. She reminds her that they've both been through a lot, but they need to stay strong and move forward. Then, she turns to the tree and demands to know why it went after Soya first instead of her. She wonders if it sees Soya as an easier target. The tree appears somewhat impressed that Adele is resisting the fog's influence. It hints that their abilities are the reason the organization has taken an interest in them before offering another deal. Adele figures that if the tree is fixated on her, it might give Soya some time to recover. She realizes that the fog is playing mind tricks, preying on their deepest wishes to break them down. If she can just stay strong, she might be able to resist it. When the tree starts claiming it will reveal her inner desires, Adele refuses to listen to its nonsense. She hopes Soya will recover soon, so she decides to buy time by provoking the tree. She dares it to step out and face her directly, calling it a coward. Enraged by her taunts, the tree retaliates with its roots, insisting that it doesn't need to change forms to defeat her. As the attack surges toward her, Adele shuts her eyes, bracing herself for what seems like the end while secretly wishing for a miracle. Then, out of nowhere, Han appears and unleashes an incredibly strong spell, sending a brilliant beam of light straight at the tree. The sight fills Adele with hope, and she is completely amazed by how similar the magic looks to Soya's light ability. But when she glances over, she realizes that Soya is still unconscious. When Han steps forward, Adele is stunned to see him. She can't believe he managed to find them and cast such a powerful light spell. Han teases her, pointing out how much she's talking for someone who almost just died. He explains that the light spell was actually just a simple technique boosted with a magical amplifier from their bag. Then, he turns his attention to Adele, who sarcastically responds that she's perfectly fine and asks if he thinks she's as pathetic as him. Jokes aside, Han suggests that they join forces for the fight. While he hands her sword back to her, Adele feels a rush of excitement holding the sword they used in training. She's touched by Han's thoughtfulness, but then he makes a joke about her wanting to bury it somewhere, which irritates her a bit. However, she quickly brushes it off and says there's no reason to hold back now since they're up against a dark mage. Just then, a cloaked figure limps out from behind a tree, clearly in pain. Han jokes about whether the tree itself is actually the guy's real body. He asks why the man is glaring at him like that and wonders if he wants to lose his other eye too. The man scowls in rage and suddenly commands the roots to attack Han. Instead of just striking, the roots rise and twist around the battlefield, shifting the area to the man's advantage. Regaining strength, he sneers, saying it's Han's turn to disappear. He orders the dark roots after him. Meanwhile, the toxic mist surrounds Han, creeping into his thoughts and whispering cruel words. It taunts him, calling him a failure who will never finish his studies. It tells him that his family abandoned him and tries to convince him that black magic is his true path. Han easily shakes off the weak mind attack and asks if that's seriously all the guy has. The response leaves the dark mage completely stunned. He quickly realizes that the man is attempting to manipulate his memories to get an emotional reaction, but it's having no effect. Growing more frustrated, the man demands to know why his brainwashing magic isn't working. Han mocks him, calling him weak, which only makes him even angrier. The man has fused with the tree, essentially becoming one with it. Han recalls that this enormous baobab tree is actually an ancient lattice tree on artificial creation by dark mages to enhance brainwashing magic and mental influence. However, Han also knows that creatures like this rely entirely on their mind tricks, making them physically fragile. He shouts over to Adele, asking if he's correct in assuming that the tree is vulnerable to light. He also casually mentions that trees usually don't handle fire very well. Adele, confused, wonders what he's planning. Out of nowhere, Han calls his pet, but Dark Mage, seething with rage, demands to know how he dares. The tree hurls its branches at Han, but Basil retaliates with a massive burst of fire, scorching the roots to ashes. A branch crashes into them, but Han quickly checks on Basil and feels relieved that the hit wasn't too severe, leaving Basil unharmed. More branches come flying his way, and he can't believe how close they get. Just as they're about to strike, someone slices through them. It's Adele, standing there with a smirk, teasing that he owes her. Han laughs, admitting he thought it was all over. Adele's tone turns serious as she reminds him they still need a final move to wrap things up. She points out that Soja appears to have recovered, but none of them have even graduated yet, and facing a dark mage is far beyond their abilities. She adds that if anyone can make it happen, it has to be Han. This time, he knows she's right. The dark sky above begins to clear, allowing rain to fall onto the tree. The robed figure looks stunned, questioning how this is happening. Meanwhile, Han has already started a fire, and now the rain is pouring again. The man wonders if this is some strange magical coincidence, but dismisses the thought, believing a kid is still just a kid. He commands the branches to strike once more, insisting that the moment the light vanishes, this place will belong to him. The branches wrap around Han's legs. The man laughs, claiming he can't believe Han fell for it. Then, he asks if Han is scared or simply insane. Without hesitation, Han draws his wand and unleashes a bolt of electricity at the branch. Lightning surges through the wood into the roots beneath. A powerful strike descends, splintering branches and bringing the tree down. The man remains motionless, completely overwhelmed by what just happened. He starts shouting, unable to understand how such weak magic could be this powerful. He accuses Han of messing with his mind and ruining everything. Han begins to walk away, but pauses when he hears the man muttering something about finding the cube. He asks what he means, but it's too late. The man and the tree are already fading away. Han struggles to remember, but something about it feels oddly familiar, maybe from the original events. Soya strolls over and compliments Han on his impressive strategy before asking if they need to talk. She thanks him and points out how using the rain not only helped extinguish the fire, but also enhanced his lightning spell due to the moisture in the air. He acknowledges she's right, but reminds her that if she hadn't cast that light shield just in time, he wouldn't have made it. Soya shrugs, saying she only did it because he gave clear directions. Han starts to realize she's exceptionally skilled in light magic, especially with how quickly she reacts. While Soya is impressed by his tactics, he wonders why the dark mage kidnapped them. Adele explains that the whole idea was to brainwash them into becoming his followers. That's when Han grasps how devious yet clever the Dark Mage's plan was. By converting two of Ardell Academy's top students, he could have gained powerful allies. Plus, if he controlled Soya, standard light magic wouldn't have been enough to stop him. Basil appears uneasy, but he insists he's fine, even though he's clearly annoyed. He complains about why everyone is making such a big deal, when he's the one who hurt his back trying to protect them. Adele and Juan immediately scold him, their concern catching him by surprise. It makes him reflect on what it truly means to work as a team. He eventually smiles and gives them some credit. A little later, as they trudge through the muddy swamp, Juan complains about how sticky the ground is. Han reminds him that he volunteered for this and tells him to stop whining. Meanwhile, Adele and Soya take a break, deciding to rest inside a tree. Even though the poison vanished along with the massive plant's death, Han knows that wild swamps are still difficult to navigate. At last, he discovers what he came for. As he opens the concealed door, he recalls how, in the original events, he found this treasure radiating with magic while rescuing Soya. Now, it's his, and he decides what happens to it. A smirk forms as he gazes at the gold, thinking even a failed villain must make a living. One of the others asks if the treasure is real, and whether it rightfully belongs to anyone. Han responds that if it did have an owner, they would be long gone by now. He gestures toward the statue at the entrance, explaining that it's a relic from 3 centuries ago. When Juan asks how he knows this, Han snaps out of his thoughts and casually says it's just basic history. He mentions that the local tribes used to worship Cerberus and build statues like this one. While someone questions if that's actually true, Basil is too busy inspecting the gold. Suddenly, he lets out an excited sound that catches Han off guard. Turning around, Han sees Basil completely thrilled hugging a gold bar. Han playfully teases Basil, asking if he's suddenly got a thing for gold. But then, he notices the bar strongly resembles a chunk of cheese. Remembering Basil's deep love for cheese, Han wonders if the little creature is simply drawn to anything yellow. With a grin, he tells Basil and Juan to take as much as they like. As they rummage through the treasure, Han stumbles upon a small chest and wonders if this is what he's been looking for. He reflects on how, in their harsh world, power holds greater value than gold or glittering trinkets. What truly matters is survival. He lifts the lid and quickly recognizes the treasure as the same one the hero from the original tale received after defeating the Dark Mage. Inside, he finds an aged object resembling an old black magic spellbook. Juan panics and urges Han to drop it, warning it might be cursed. He also asks if Han is still interested in dark magic. Han waves him off, calling it a misunderstanding. As Han flips the book open, it floats and emits a radiant glow. Realizing it's reacting to him, he watches it shift into a simple magic spellbook. Once it lands in his hands, he tells Juan to check the title. Still skeptical, Juan glances again and sees it's just an ordinary Han quickly realizes the book adapts to its user's needs, making it a valuable tool for staying under the radar. Whether the Dark Mage left it there on purpose or not doesn't matter. What matters is its usefulness. If it holds all fundamental spells, it's essentially priceless. This book lets someone learn spells instantly, a shortcut to mastering magic that Ardell Academy students would normally struggle spend an entire year struggling with. Since the higher-ups are likely restless by now, they decide to leave. As they're about to leave, Han hears a voice call him a stranger. He turns, but no one is there. When it calls again, he wonders if only he can hear it. Then, noticing the spellbook glowing in his hands, he realizes this isn't random. The voice tells him that he has stepped into an entirely new world and that his actions will change everything. Han begins to understand the weight of this. He realizes that his choices, no matter how small, could completely rewrite the original tale. In the real story, he was supposed to be nothing more than a minor character who didn't make it very far. Han starts to suspect that the book in his possession might actually be the legendary prophecy book Kang mentioned, the one that can see past deception and bring its predictions to life. He hesitates between keeping his distance or immersing himself in these events, but his determination to do what's right pulls him deeper into the academy instead of staying on the sidelines. A sudden voice commands him to step up and guide the world's fate, warning that sitting back could lead to destruction. Before he can completely process what's happening, a powerful surge of energy crashes into him. He collapses, suddenly questioning if this is the true cost of hearing these prophecies. When Han wakes up, he's in the dormitory, with Wan looking more relieved than someone who aced a surprise test. Wan says Han really scared him back there. Still groggy, Han apologizes and asks for time alone, assuring Wan he's fine. Woon grabs snacks, leaving Han alone. As he pieces things together, he realizes his actions may have triggered a dangerous chain of events. If things spiral, the main characters could die, the Dark Sorcerers might win, and the Ardal Empire could collapse. With everything seemingly on the brink of disaster, Han feels trapped, like no choice will lead to a good outcome. Just as he considers taking a step back and living quietly, fate drags him straight into the chaos. In his past life, betrayal and enemies left him in a dark, lonely place. He refuses to relive that. So, when the world seems to break apart due to his interference, he knows he can't just sit still. He sometimes wonders why he takes it so seriously, but deep down, he knows facing it head-on is the only option. Besides, he's the only one who knows how Seoul Academy's story ends after all. He's a reincarnated soul. A dark wizard was behind the kidnapping, but the Academy is keeping details under wraps. Though Han and Wan rescued Adele and Soya without permission, they only received a light warning for breaking campus rules. Han wonders if this means more annoying tasks are coming his way. He grumbles about putting in so much effort with no reward. His frustration peaks when he hears their first magic practical is a group project. Group projects feel like being stuck on a wild bus ride with a reckless driver, chaotic passengers, and at least one person causing trouble just for fun. It's a crash course in dealing with all kinds of people. Han finds them way more irritating than hunting monsters, especially since they eat up so much time in Seoul Academy's practical magic lessons. He wonders if they'll have to enter dungeons to collect rare items and imagines how awesome it would be to earn extra points for tackling the hardest ones. But then, he remembers that failure means getting a big fat 0 if they miss the tight deadline.